Okay, we are officially less than 1 week away from cracking an ice-cold Miller Lite and knowing who the Bears are going to draft at number 10, White Sox, Dave. I couldn't be more excited. I don't know if we're more excited for an impact player or the taste of that refreshing Miller Lite.
That is a toss-up bet. How about this? How about this player leads us to a Super Bowl in some form or another, and then we have a celebratory Miller Lite a few years down the road.
This is like the old, I just hope we can win a game. Like let's just one step at a time. But
I'm saying hope.
Hope springs eternal. Hope's a great thing.
Exactly. Touch them all. Because whether you're at a watch party for the draft or your favorite bar or at home with some friends, Miller Lite is the original light beer since 1975, and it's still the best one. Make these moments even better with Miller Time, the great tasting light beer for people who love beer. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories, and the official beer partner of the Chicago Bears. Go to MillerLite.com/stretch to find delivery options near you, or you can find Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. Tastes like Miller Time, Chicago. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, everybody, welcome into the stretch. Today we are joined in studio by Chicago radio veteran Dan McNeil. Dan, it's great to have you in.
It is good to be had, and it's good to be anywhere when you're me. Eddie, Dave, thanks for having me. This is quite a huge stage. I mean, this is not a club show, man. This is Barstool.
No, it's just us in a little room and a couple cameras. Nothing.
That's all it is. And Eddie did bury the lead a little bit right there. You're not just a Chicago radio veteran. You're a Chicago radio legend.
Yeah. So I should have given you the L word. My apologies.
Well, when you use legend, though, it implies unemployed.
That is true also.
Which I suppose would fit in this case, too.
That is true.
Yes, have thoughts, will travel. I'm doing a little writing, doing a little work here and there, maybe getting a fishing show. Bernstein's looking for work. I'm told that maybe he and I can get in a boat together and do some fishing shows.
Just
How about that?
make sure that you study up on all the conservation laws and etiquette prior to.
Well, if he were really paying attention to conservationalism, he wouldn't have been holding the fish the way he was. The fish loses its ability to keep oxygen in its lungs when you hold it straight up and down like that. That's why you hold the fish horizontally. He should have known that. But anyway, that's not why you called.
Yeah, we could get the hunting and fishing thoughts towards the end of the show.
I'm actually excited for that part.
Yeah, we'll do that. But no, it's great to have you. We had a beer probably, a month ago, and it was great to kind of hear kind of about your career and everything. And I think naturally, just to give some of our fans an introduction to you, tell everyone exactly who you are, how you got on the air, how long you were on the air. Let's start with the beginning.
The Score was born on the banks of the Chicago River. The Score was born in 92. I was a 30-year-old converted executive producer, weekend host at the AM/FM loop when the Score launched on an AM only, daytime only frequency, AM 820, from sunrise to sundown. And we were awful. And, I mean, we'd had no listeners and no sponsorship. But within a year, we became a Chicago brand. And Mike North had as much to do with that as anybody. He was a man of the people, even in the back of a limo, as I like to say. He had the ability to be a man of the people. And the Score was something different. And it, for the decade of the 90s, was what Barstool has succeeded at accomplishing today. It makes people feel like they're part of a fraternity house, and the Score had that for a long, long time.
Well, I did not know that there was an AM only signal. Like, you're telling me once the sun went down, you guys were done.
Yeah, we would sign on. Dude, in that neighborhood you grew up in, over by Foreman High School,
Yeah.
I was sitting in the employee lot across the street from the radio station when we signed on, looking at the antenna at 5:45 in the morning on January 2nd of 92. I wasn't starting the show until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but I wanted to be there when that puppy got launched and just watching the lights on the transmitter as the sun was coming up, and Tom Scher was our morning host.
Wow.
And, you say goodbye to your audience at 4:45. it's tough to compete when you're saying goodnight and there's other good talent on against you.
What was the reasoning for that? Was there other?
That was what the license was. They spent $900,000 on the license. That was the steal of the century. $900,000 for the frequency. None of us were making any money. Mike and I were the lowest paid. I think we were both making $50K a year that first year.
Yeah.
And then they sold the radio station with WXRT for $77 million 3 years later.
That's not a bad ROI right there.
Nice.
Look
That's
at that.
not a bad ROI.
We'll see if
right
we can
there.
get that in the Bulls in the play-in game tonight. See,
Yeah. Right.
play-in game is tonight.
Yeah.
it is,
Playing game
And-
is tonight. Yeah.
And they did finally replace Jim Boylan, I'm told.
They did, yes. You've been all right. You've been hiding a little bit. You know, you cut the cord like everyone else, huh?
Yeah. Hey,
Question.
do you watch them?
No.
No. Yep.
No.
Has it been nice not to have to watch things that you don't want to watch?
Yes.
To be quite frank.
There's no question. And you know, nobody wants to hear this. Woe is me. It's not like, you know, it's breaking rocks or working, you know, in a mill with, you know, crazy high temperatures like my son does as a union bricklayer. But every job has its toilet to scrub. And for me, it always has been the NBA. I've just never been a big fan of the NBA, and I don't watch any of it. When the Cubs or Sox are good, I'll watch them. I did watch a little bit of the Blackhawks and Senators last night, only because I was too lazy to get out of the chair and find the remote. Hawks got a couple quick ones on them too. Where's Chief at to celebrate the occasion today? But no, I don't miss it. I love the NFL and I love college football, but it's nice to not have to watch stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're a movie guy too, so it's at
what
this
we were
day and age where there's so much good entertainment. Like that's what I think. Everyone talks about like, oh, why are ratings slipping here or there? I think it's like the abundance of other media that is just awesome right now.
You can tailor
Like-
whatever you want to see on your phone, you know?
Well, it's just like TV shows are just on another level right now, you know?
Yeah, it really
That
is
too.
the golden era for television. I'm more of a movie guy than a TV guy, and it bothers me how badly the movie industry is getting its ass kicked by television these last 15 years. And everybody says, well, jump on board, join the revolution. I can't. I got 2.5 hours for you. I don't have 16 hours.
Yeah, that's kind of the irony of it too, is that like the people who you think the attention spans are shrinking, which they are, but the movies are suffering when it's just a one hitter versus like people watching 57 episodes of one thing, right?
Right,
So it
yeah.
is like kind of like
A juxtaposition.
yes,
Yeah.
juxtaposition. That's the word I was
I
looking
knew
for.
that's what you were looking for.
Exactly. Thank you, Dave. He knows me so
He's a
well.
word guy.
Yeah.
He was
I'm a
he
wordsmith.
was plowing through
Hill.
the book earlier.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you know, I think
I got through the
next-
first chapter.
The next book I'm going to do in 140 characters just per page, and that's
Yep.
it. So
Just
everybody can
tweets.
just feel like it's a book of tweets.
Yep. Actually, that's a good idea.
Maybe
That honestly is a good idea.
So you started as a producer, you said then?
I started at the AM Loop as a producer and weekend talent, and I started when the score was when we signed on. I was doing afternoons.
Okay.
I was 30, had no business hosting afternoons, none whatsoever. Was very ill qualified, and it took several years before I felt like I belonged. Probably until around '96, and I'd been wearing headphones for almost 15 years before I finally felt like, you know, maybe this was a good decision.
Could do this. And then where are you from originally?
Northwest Indiana,
Northwest
25
Indiana.
miles south of Sox Park.
So you've always been there, but you've always been like a fan of Chicago teams. Like there was never.
Yeah, no, never any gravitating toward. Of course, we didn't have the Colts in Indianapolis when I was
Baltimore.
growing up,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were in Baltimore until '84, so we didn't have any of that. And it's, you know, we grew up with Chicago television just across the state line. The area code changes,
Yeah.
but it's not all that dangerous. It's like LA, and I think Illinois people get that now. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, you had to explain to people, I don't live near Kentucky. It's just over the line. Really, it's not that far. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's closer than we're about the same distance. I grew up 25 miles straight west. What's the difference, you know?
Yeah, and the Eisenhower's always an easy commute, isn't it?
Oof.
Whatever.
I
time
used
of
to
the
have
day.
to do the reverse commute from the city to Lisle, and I wanted to have that job for a long time, and I lasted like 8 months.
Yeah.
Because of that commute, that 290 that strangler, the worst.
It's
hell on
upset
earth.
just thinking about
It gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it.
We don't want you to have those.
No.
But was what was the app being the afternoon guy? Was it as big of a deal then as it is now? You know, like did you understand like the magnitude of what it was? At the time?
I think we did. There was a really rich tradition of radio talent in Chicago. People who preceded me, not necessarily my flavor, but Wally Phillips for years on WGN radio was what most of our parents grew up listening to, and Bob Collins on GN. But there was a tremendous amount of talent in the 80s. Jonathan Brandmeier, Steve Dahl, and Gary Meyer were legends. And working at that radio station, what a frat house the 80s were, and an AM and FM rock station. One day, Dennis Hopper might be at the radio station and popping out of the bathroom, wiping his nose. Hey, man, let's lay some scratch on the table. And I'm like, is he talking about making a bet, or does he want to cut up some lines and start?
Maybe both.
Maybe a little of both. But yeah, it was an exciting time. That was a great radio station. But yeah, I mean, we got it how big our opportunities were, because let's face it, Chicago, unlike New York and LA, we've got athletes and we've got media people.
Yeah.
Media people comprise the second largest celebrity contingent in town. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, if you think, if you do the weather on Channel 7, everybody knows, hey, it's Larry Mowry.
Yeah.
You were thinking Cheryl Scott. I kind of partial to Cheryl as well, but yeah, Larry Mowry's he's sneaky good, and a Valpo Crusader, you should know.
So how old were you? What year was it when you were 30?
I was 30. Yeah, 1992. I was just turning 30.
I mean, that kind of to me is always like the golden spot, right? Like the Hawks were in the Cup. Obviously, the Bulls were in the height of their powers. The Ditka era was just dissolving, right? I think that's like a Chicago sports documentary that's like there for the taking, is that 92-93 year. Yeah. Maddox won the Cy Young. Mm-hmm. Frank Thomas won the MVP the following year.
94 he did, yeah.
That, like, I don't do you realize that now? Was it realized in the time, or?
I think a lot of us felt when the baseball season ended, August 14th of 94, the White Sox were screwed out of a World Series. Now, whether they would have won it is another story, but they were in very good position when the season came to a conclusion. And yeah, Thomas was the MVP in 93, and again I think in 94, and the Blackhawks were very, very good. They made it to the Cup final in 92 when the Bulls got to their second straight NBA championship series. And the score, very cool, was cool enough to send us on the road. So here we are, this startup radio station, and we're in Portland in June of 92 with the Bulls and Trailblazers, and then in Phoenix in 93, in Seattle in 96, and then Salt Lake City, which was kind of sleepy in 97, 98. You just find out where Rodman's going in Salt Lake City, and that's where you find the party wherever he's going to be.
And obviously, I would assume it was Mike owned the town, right? Like it was Jordan's town. Right, or was it? Or who was the closest guy to being like that? There's a lot of gravitas towards this person too.
Probably still Walter.
Yeah.
Probably still Payton, even though he played his last game in '87. I think more than Jordan, Payton wanted to be Chicago. Chicago was enough for Walter. Jordan wanted the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know if you've seen the movie Air, which was produced a couple years ago. Tremendous story.
My favorite movie of the year.
I loved it. I thought it was great. And people say, you watched Air? Sure, it's about the marketing strategy Nike used to get Jordan. It doesn't have anything to do with Jordan the player per se. Is how does this company go from having only 17% of the shoe sales in the NBA to becoming what it became? It was a tremendous, tremendous movie. But Jordan wanted the globe. And he was not comfortable in his own skin. He would not enjoy himself. And and I've never walked a day in Michael's skin. I would guess it would suck being Michael Jordan. You can't go to get gas in your vehicle without drawing a crowd. That has to get old.
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
But Walt was a part of this city. Walt was really a special guy.
Who did you ever have a chance to interview either of them?
Yeah, I got a chance to share the stage with Jordan right before the Bulls won their first championship at the auto show. I was working the Chevy display. It was a surprise visit. It wasn't announced. And I grabbed the microphone. We had 2 cordless mics, and they're standing on this gigantic platform. And I just said, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest basketball player in the world, Mike. It's like introducing the Stones, you know. It was 500 people, and I'm in my bad, ill-fitting suit that I could afford for my $27,000 a year producer salary at the time. And so I entertained with Jordan. And the first time I interviewed Payton, he actually called the show on his own to defend Jordan on something in '93, the Score's second year. My producer's jumping up and down, pick up line one. We didn't have computers either. They didn't pop for computers. So the producers had no way of letting the host know in the air studio other than taping a name to a note card and taping it to the glass, you know. Yeah, Walter Payton's on line 1. What? Walter wanted to defend Jordan, so he called on his own, and that was pretty cool. That was a pinch me moment.
Wait, so what year was that? You said you were just a producer when the MJ thing happened on the auto show?
The producer when MJ and I did the auto show, yeah, that was in '91, right before they won their first title. I was still at the Loop. The Score had not launched yet. And then 2 years later, we were on the Score in the afternoon show, Terry Boers and I, and Payton called on his own to defend Jordan.
Man. What
was he defending, though?
I can't even remember because there were so few times when Jordan took abuse.
Right.
You would think you would remember that. I was just, you know, I was like, Walter Payton's calling the show to talk to us. He's listening in his car? He's listening to my voice? Walter Payton was everything to me, man, when I was growing up playing football. I loved Walter.
It's actually kind of cool, too, because you talk about, like, the Patriots and everything they went through having a dynasty. And at some point, talking on the air about them was like, all right, hey, it's just, you know, same shit, different day. They're so good, they're going to keep going. But it's kind of different with the Bulls, right? There was all the Krause drama. There was all the Scotty drama always happening. Obviously, Michael, was he like he was never crushed. He was always praised. But was it always something interesting to kind of latch onto with those guys? With that?
Yeah, Phil Jackson made it an annual soap opera. He didn't want a long-term contract, even though Reinsdorf offered one to him. He didn't want to do it. It seems like Reinsdorf, whether he will admit this or not, and he should have, after Thelma Krause, Jerry Krause's widow, was booed last year at the 96 reunion when they brought that team back, that there was I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, Eddie. There was a feeling that Jordan and the Bulls were just, they were too cool for the room to a large degree. Yeah. And I don't think the guys who were the so-called Jordan-heirs were so much a part of it as Mike was. Mike just didn't want much to do with Chicago. But yeah, they were enormous. They were huge, and they were rock stars everywhere they went, and it was fun to have a party in Grant Park every year. Even though for me, I was rooting for the Blackhawks to have one. I had to wait a few years for that, but finally got that in.
Yeah, you did. Was there anyone who do you view as like the greatest gift to radio that you had? Like there was certain guys, they're not the best players, but like a Carlos Zambrano, for instance, you know, like the guys who make your job easier. There's always those guys, the jersey cutting scan, like there's always those guys. Who do you view as like, we always got content out of this player for something they
I got one name for you, but I'll let you.
Well, my mind's racing. Mike Ditka is one. Ditka is guaranteed gold. Yeah. Ozzie Guillen.
That was mine, Ozzie.
All he's got to do is read the commercials.
Exactly.
For Four Winds Casinos. He reminds me so much of Al Pacino's character in Scarface, Tony Montana.
Yeah.
he was getting spoofed on not SNL, Mad TV. Ozzy
Was he?
Yeah, I mean he was
Not
a character.
surprised.
You know.
Yeah. Chris Sale is another one. I mean, Chris Sale tearing up those jerseys.
It was unreal.
That was hysterical.
Yeah.
As nuts as it was, I kind of liked it. And you know what? If my franchise pitcher is uncomfortable wearing memorabilia jerseys, I want to do everything I can to make him comfortable.
He said that spring training, they're like, we're fitting them for these jerseys. He's like, I don't care if we wear these jerseys, just make sure it's not on my start. Like, I'm not wearing this one when I start. And he like warned them too. So
Yeah.
Unreal.
that's
He was
White Sox.
He was a guy who was fun to have around. Ozzie Guillen, Brian Urlacher was a guy who was fun to have around for those reasons. And the more I've gotten to know Urlacher after his career, the more interesting I think he is. But yeah, we've been lucky in terms of having some characters in this town.
Yeah, like those are the guys who just make this job easier, quite
Totally.
frankly. Like we always talk about, like, hey, I don't know if I, like, for instance, like right now, like if the Bulls did go and get LaMelo Ball, like would it be great for the team and the franchise? I don't know, probably not. But as far as content goes, there'd be something there
man.
for us to talk about.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you want
when-
Tony La Russa back?
That's exactly what I was about to say. When the Sox hired Tony La Russa, I was furious, obviously, because it's like this guy hasn't been in a dugout in a decade, and he's like, Dave, we're gonna get some stories out of this. You know, like we're gonna get some talking points out of this. I'm like, yeah, we are. Obviously, the little shuffle steps to go and defend Jose Abreu after getting hit or whatever.
Yeah, I
like-
just knew. I was like, this is gold. Like I'm a Cubs fan, so obviously I didn't care either way. But I was like, this is going to be great.
There will come a time in your careers, if it hasn't happened already, where what comes out of the box, as we used to say, means a lot more to you than what's in your heart with the teams that you followed when you were a kid. As long as it's providing the great content, you'll live with that a lot more comfortably than you will your team succeeding if it's doing so in a boring variety. Because teams can be boring successful, too. I mean,
Totally.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of getting at with those Patriots and those Bulls teams. But the
I mean,
Bulls had enough drama.
Yeah, and the Patriots were just like all business and cookie cutter.
Yeah, like their biggest problem was Belichick didn't like Brady's trainer.
Or like Randy Moss.
Yeah, and then it was kind of over. And I mean, there was a lot of gates they had.
Yeah, they had a couple
Yeah.
gates.
So they had a lot of stuff like that. But by and large, for a lot of the time, it was just, business as usual. This episode is also brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Body Armor is a real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, and no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners, with your favorite flavors like strawberry, banana, and orange mango out in a brand new look you're going to love. Look at these brand new bottles that Body Armor's throwing at you guys. This is beautiful
They're
stuff.
clean.
I like
They
that.
pop.
Nice.
What a
sharp
contrast.
Yeah.
I'm holding the dragon fruit berry. Got that like northwestern purple, Dave.
looking. That's true,
With a
Ed.
lighter purple and like a whitish, I should say. It's a kind of contrast. It looks great.
I'm a strawberry banana guy through
I
and
am
through.
too.
It's
Yeah.
the number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. So go grab some Body Armor. It's time to rewrite your routine and get rid of the other sports drinks from your grandpa's era. And yeah, go drink Body Armor. To get your Body Armor today at Walmart or a local grocery store near you. Body Armor, choose better. When you think about that building on Belmont, what comes to mind the most? What do you think of? What do you gravitate towards?
I think of how stuffed we were in that building. It was just an absolute, it was overflowing with humans. I mean, it was literally a one flat. It was just in a residential neighborhood by Foreman High School with WXRT. All the studios were very, very small. Our on-air studio for the AM side was, I'm not lying, it was about a third as big as this room. It was slightly larger than what we used to call a phone booth in this country, where you can get inside and make a telephone call. It was when Matt Millen came to the studio when he was with Fox. He said, "Matt, you might want to butter your hips to get in the door here to make room." I mean, it was just tiny, and it was just such an electric feeling, and it was just you couldn't wait to get to work the next day for so many years. Our FM brothers and sisters finally accepted us. They were the the cool XRT, they didn't like to hear us call them granola eaters, but they were the granola eating crowd, and we were the, pull my finger crowd. We were the frat guys.
Yeah.
But eventually we all worked pretty well together. But yeah, I just remember it being such a melee. It was the Wild West. It really was crazy.
Were you there the day? Who did North race?
Chris Zorich.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. It was good old-fashioned grassroots level radio promotions, and that's what Mike and I tried to do. We tried to support each other, when we go to each other's events, and some of the other guys did too, but Mike and I made it particularly important to each other to support the other shows.
And then so you were at the Score from how long, and then you moved over to 1000, correct?
Yeah, I was at the Score until October of 2000. I quit the Monday following Purdue's upset win at Camp Randall. Oh, the most improbable cover. Whew. Never forget that one. And left for ESPN 1000 in May of 01. We did the Mac Yurko and Harry show on ESPN 1000 for 8 years.
And then I'm not as familiar with the start of 1000. So obviously you said the Score starts in 92, and that was the original station, right? Mm-hmm. And then 1000 came to be in...
They went to a sports format in 94. They called themselves WMVP. It had been the old AM Loops frequency, but they changed the call letters to WMVP in 94 and started operating under the auspices of ESPN, I think, in 95 or 96.
Okay, so they had 5 years already of establishment.
Yeah, they'd been there for a little while when we went there with Mac Yurko and Harry. And, and we flipped it. We flipped it on them. After running the table against ESPN 1000, we gave the Score a little bit of the same thing in return.
Mm-hmm. So what all went into that decision? Was it kind of a no-brainer? Were you looking for something new? Was it the money? Like what?
I didn't like the direction of the radio station, honestly, and I thought that I asked several times to be reassigned to conclude my contract, and they said no, so I said, okay. I quit, and with 3 kids and a mortgage and no job being offered to me, I rolled dice.
There was no offer on the table before you.
No offer. Mitch Rosen and I had casual conversations.
Wow.
No offer.
Ballsy.
Yeah, more balls than brains. I do leap before I look sometimes. But it worked out, and they wound up hiring me, in the winter. I wound up going to Bristol to do weekends, just scoreboard shows. Those were pretty boring. I'd have rather gone to Detroit and just talked to Lions fans about the draft or something. There's no fraternity in national radio. I didn't find it to be any juice whatsoever.
Yeah. I could see that for sure.
Yeah,
It's always the worst part of listening to local radio is when they put the national guys on. You're just like, ugh.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah. Which, no disrespect to the national guys, but it's just not what you're looking for. You hop in your car, I want to hear about one of our 5 teams. Right. I don't want to hear about, what's going on with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, there's plenty of that out there for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know where to go if I want that, which I do. I do listen to that sometimes, but it's just not what I want. So then what, you were afternoons with Mac and Harry?
We did afternoons for all 8 years, yeah.
Okay, so wow. So that's 92 to 2000, 2008 with Mac Yurko and Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Afternoon Saloon.
Yeah, the afternoon saloon.
Yeah.
It was great radio.
Well, thank you.
It was awesome radio.
We did some things.
I was telling you, like Boers and Bernstein, Mac Yurko, and I would just rotate between the 3, and that's how I absorbed all my... I mean, this is like pre-internet-ish,
Right.
So that's how... And even into the Bears Longstapper, it was Spiegel and Manley. I loved that show.
Yeah.
I loved that show.
Was there ever any wars between you guys, or was it pretty clean?
Yeah, there were always wars.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
What's the most...
Radio guys?
Yeah. But, that doesn't really happen anymore. I can't remember the last time the 2 stations have gone at each other. Directly. Without a comment here, comment there.
Now, if you're talking the type of internal stuff, among teammates fighing with each other?
Oh, no, that happens.
I was going to say.
I'm saying
something 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No. I'm saying a WCW, WWF.
Oh, no, none of that. Don't see
Boers and Bernstein.
Yeah, Boers and, the thing about it is, going against their show, it's too bad those two shows were against each other because, whether you preferred them to us or us to them, the meat of the matter is those were the two shows for that decade that had the most imprint in local sports media. And it's undeniable, really.
Do you, what was the first time you met Yurko?
I was working with Terry Boers in 93 or 94. He was with the Packers, and I knew he wanted to get into radio, and we did an appearance at a bowling alley on a Sunday when the Packers were on bye, and we started plotting our show very quickly. Very quickly in his career, we started talking about someday partnering together.
He's just a guy, so I've only done crosstalk with him at this point. I've never been on with him, and he's one of those guys that I'm just entranced by. Just the way he carries himself and the way he goes about his business. It just I don't know. It just interests me a lot.
He's an interesting dude. Don't ever get behind the wheel of an automobile. Don't ever get in a car with him if he's driving.
He's a bad driver?
He's a terrible driver.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys who has there is some psychological phenomenon with some people. When they get behind the wheel, they become somebody different. He is one of those guys.
Is he a road rage guy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
All the way home.
Wow.
All the way from Scottsdale or from Mesa, Arizona, all the way to Tucson. When the Sox were still training in Tucson, he got behind the bumper of a landscaping crew, and I could read the how many cc's the motor was on the lawnmowers in the back of the trailer. He was that close and stayed on that guy's ass for 60 miles. I said, Yerk, you can go around this guy anytime.
You're in the desert.
Mackie, he's got to learn the lessons of the road. You got to learn the good kid is going to teach you how it works, and he's just riding this guy's ass. That was an unfortunate drive. Yeah, got the short end on that one.
And then that's your relationship with Yurko. Obviously, there's a lot of, you guys made some headlines with Harry with a fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I shoved Harry once.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got in my personal space. Things weren't going well on the show.
No.
We were really scuffling. It was we were 13, 14 months in, and one of the consultants advised the station to blow it up, and I'm surprised they didn't. But Bob Snyder thought it still had something. Yeah, but I had a hangover and shoved Harry, and yeah, it was Yurko threw a stapler at Danny Zetterman once and almost conked him in the head. I mean, there were some times Yurko, Harry knocked Yurko's hat off of his head in Boston.
That's a fighting move.
Were you guys always at each other's necks throughout the 8 years, or was it kind of something that happened like year 3? It was.
I think it was more. It was more playful the last few years. The first few years it was contentious. We didn't like working together. No. I didn't want a third. I didn't really see the value of what Harry was bringing initially. Mm-hmm. I was wrong, and it took me a while to get my head around that. And once I did, the show went to another level. Mm-hmm. We succeeded at a higher level.
So were you always happy with the move that you made to 1,000?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, happy for all the right reasons. The most money I ever made, the most success I ever enjoyed. Saw the country on someone else's dime. And Steve Dahl, who was my radio hero, told me once years ago, if you ever get radio management into a position where you can affect change and you can sort of dictate policy on something to your advantage, as long as it's in the best interest of the show, do it. Seize those chances. And we did at ESPN 1000. We actually had a traveling engineer, which had never been done before. And it was the byproduct of us stopping batting practice at the World Series because of a famous fight, Sox and Astros. Harry and I were screaming at each other, during batting practice, the only show in the country that halts batting practice because we're in the visiting radio booth behind the and look down and everybody's looking up. The Sox are taking BP. Jeff Blum, who hit the home run in Game 3 the night before, he's looking up like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? That was our show, man.
Have you talked about that story publicly before? Because I've never heard that one.
Probably. I probably have. Yeah, they all kind of run together.
Right.
Yeah.
And then 2008, was that you guys? They pulled the plug, or you guys? Someone left. How did it end?
They fired me in January of 2009. It was probably a money move. It was my salary was going to go up, and we were in a. We didn't have a great year advertising the previous year. The housing market.
Yeah, then in 08, 09.
We had a little bit of a dip there. And I was a pain in the ass to the PD. I mean, I was constant. He was trying to Bristolize us. He wanted us all to be Bristolians. And we said, you know what, Mike Tirico is fine when we want him. We don't need to have Mike every week on the show. He was trying to make us sound like Mike and Mike. And I pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and finally they said that's enough.
Yeah. Well, how was that experience? Were you as nervous then? Were you more nervous then than when you just left on your own accord? The score back in.
You know, I don't know. Probably not. Because I had a few more years of winning under my belt and starting something new and winning. And I wound up going back to the Score in 2009 for a second run with Spiegel and middays. Mm-hmm. That was a pretty comfortable run. That was a good time on our show. That was the worst culture I've ever worked at any radio station in my life.
Really?
2009 to 2014, the Score was an absolute disaster.
Huh.
From a culture standpoint. Every show was on an island. The guys on our show, Matt Spiegel, Jay Zawoski, Nick Shepkowski, Dave Miska, and I all got along swimmingly, and I apologize if I missed anybody, but we did well together, I thought. But we were on an island. The morning show wanted nothing to do, I should say Mully wanted nothing to do with any of the rest of us. Didn't want to do transitions at 9 o'clock for 10 minutes. Took offense to me making a joke about him being a Europhile. He has an odd fondness for European culture. So I said to him, I can't believe you're not going to the Bears. Bears were playing in London. I don't remember who. And all right, I don't want to do this anymore. McNeil goes or I go. He's threatening to quit one day. Terry wasn't around very often. Bernsey was being, he was really putting his signature on the radio station right around 2011, 2012. And I think Penn State had a lot to do with that. Yeah. And the old frat house became something different. It became a think tank. And it just got worse when we got to Donald Trump and the election in 2016 and Colin Kaepernick and George Floyd and the pandemic. I mean, there were different sets of sports radio problems down the road. But you look at it, it's about an 8-year pileup that began right around 2012.
What year was the move from Belmont to Prudential?
I was already gone. I don't know when they moved. First, they moved to the NBC building first on Columbus. And I want to say that was around 01, 02. Yeah. I was already gone.
Oh, okay. So it was a completely new experience going
second go around.
Yeah, it was. And the studios were terrible too. I could not believe the station where the lead host had an amplifier, a headphone amplifier that wasn't functioning. It's like the other guys sit here in this position every day and maybe they don't listen as loud. I like to hear the show. I'm hosting. Call me crazy. Yeah. I want to know if Yurko's wheezing, I should be able to hear that so I could pop his mic off and say, "Good kid, you're wheezing. Back off a little bit."
Yeah.
So, but those were interesting times. But you know what? I wouldn't trade them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade them.
Yeah. And that was 09 to 13, you said?
Yeah, 09 to 14.
Yeah, everyone's a little angsty during the Trustman years, so
Yeah.
it makes
That's
sense.
what it was.
Yeah, that's exactly
See,
what
it wasn't Donald Trump. It
I
wasn't the
blame Trustman.
pandemic. It
Mark
wasn't George
Trustman.
Floyd. It was Mark Trustman.
Mark Trestman. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Who could forget Matt Barkley getting the start late in one of those Trestman years?
Yeah, we had Robbie Gold on,
Last week, yeah.
last week, and he was talking about, the kicking on second down and everything. It was interesting. Then what happens in 13?
I left in June of 14. I should have, when we came back from Boston after 17 seconds, I was considering stopping at that point because I didn't want to do it anymore. And I also thought that it was time to try something completely different. And I wound up finding that thing at the Drive in an ill-fated morning show that lasted a year and a half, but I tried. But yeah, I wanted to try something different. When we came home from 17 seconds, when the Hawks beat the Bruins in 13, I thought, okay, I'll do the parade show and then I'll gracefully walk away because I really don't want to do it here anymore because of the way the vibe is at this radio station when guys don't want to hang around with each other and guys, other than the guys on the same show, it's just, it wasn't any fun. So I bolted in 14.
Mm-hmm. And then you come back.
And then I came back in 18.
Yeah.
Got more comebacks than George Foreman, right?
But that's radio, especially in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's if you were there in the early days and you made a name for yourself and did a good job, like you kind of are always going to come back some way. You're the Michael Myers of the
I like that.
Of the city. in a
That's funny.
sense.
Michael Myers. I'll tell my accountant that we can run with that one today. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've lived recklessly. I've lived recklessly professionally, and I can't say I regret it, man. Yeah, it's just like I stood up for what I believed to be right at the time, whether it was for guys at the radio station, I was going to bat for them or my show's behalf. So I can't say I have many regrets. There's some things I wish I would have done differently, but I can't say I have regrets.
Do you have no regrets, but when you look at how it ended at this point, and it's not over, like we just said, you're Michael Myers, who knows what happens in the future, but obviously the famous, why you got fired from the Score, the Maria Taylor story is, how do you view that like about 5 years later now?
I shouldn't have done it. It was stupid to do it. It wasn't even funny. If it was.
But you were trying to be funny.
I was trying to be funny. I don't believe it should have been given. I should have been given a lifetime, sentence.
Yeah.
That seems to be what,
Nobody in this room believes so.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Just to be clear, I'm not asking you this as
Yeah.
tell me what you think about your
interrogation,
decision.
yeah.
No, this is like a, hey. Like,
Do you think that it would have gone down that way if it happened this morning?
No idea. And that's a great question, Dave, because when it happened in 2020, you remember, it was at the height of cancel culture. You had Harvey Weinstein. You had all this stuff. People were uptight.
They were going nuts. People were going nuts. The whole world was.
We were.
All of us, included.
No question.
Yeah.
And it's just like I just served it right up there for them on a platter.
Yeah.
And,
you really did.
There was no debating that. I know I had a golf league the next day, and my buddy gets there, and I'm first there, and he says, "You're never here this early." And I said, "Well, I didn't sleep very much. I think I'm going to get gassed today." And he said, "What happened?" I told him. He goes, "Oh yeah, you're finished."
Yeah.
But it took 2 years for me to get my head around why that was wrong, and why it, I feel terrible about it. And if it discouraged one young woman, whether she's white or black, it doesn't matter. If it discouraged one young woman from going into sportscasting, shame on me. It's tough enough when they get there. They don't need some clown sitting on his ass, sucking on a PBR and hitting a pipe. Trying to be funny on a Monday night. I don't want to be that guy. I never wanted to be that guy. I've always taken a lot of pride in in nurturing my production staff and working with young producers and young hosts and making them better together. Not that. That was not representative of what I am or who I am.
Yeah, and I thought we talked about this when we got a beer a couple weeks ago, and I thought the way you made me think about it, just how you've reflected on it, was kind of hit. So I understand that
Right there. I mean,
right, yeah,
I think that's perfectly.
It is,
everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Like you said, you served it up on a silver platter, and it was just a dumb one-off comment. You were probably sitting, drinking a beer, like, oh, haha, like that is not an indictment of your entire character, And I think people with a brain can see that.
I'd like to think so. Sometimes though, people want to use one thing to encapsulate your entire core, and you just can't. You can't possibly do that.
Yeah.
With anybody.
Well, we can brush right along with that. Besides that, though, what's been the big thing now, Mac? Or do you miss? We talked before too about like the stage. Do you miss the stage?
I miss doing good work with good people who are really good at what they do and fun to do it with.
Yeah.
I don't miss the applause. I don't miss adulation. I miss the paychecks.
Yeah.
They were damn good. Even at the end, they were pretty good. But I miss being with guys who believe in doing a great product and sharing the same passion and being able to collaborate.
Yeah.
That's not something you find all the time, guys who can collaborate. I have a tendency, this will surprise people, to not say what's really on my mind. I tend to be protective of people's feelings more than I should be these last 15 years or so. And I don't know if all of my coworkers would agree with that, but some of them might recall that I was a little bit less conflict-oriented than they was expecting me to be when I came back in 2009. Jay Zawoski said, I was passive. Didn't want to be that argumentative guy. But, yeah, that's what's fun. When you get together with guys who like doing it and are passionate about it and you put together a great product and you can collaborate on it and not take things personally, that's when it's worthwhile.
If you got a call tomorrow and there was a third sports station opening up here, maybe the game comes back. Let's just play that.
Can we get it a different frequency?
Yes, we can. We can. And they say, all right, Mac, we're going to let you name one co-host, and you got to pick one of your former ones. Who are you going with?
To co-host
with you.
With
yes.
me? Oh, I have to do the show, though?
Yeah,
every day?
Yes, you're on.
Oh, my God. How long is our show? 1 hour.
How about a 2 hour?
2 hours?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I play a Led Zeppelin song in between?
Sure.
Love that.
Stairway to Heaven, because that's nice and lengthy, because
Yes.
Grandpa's got to go have his Metamucil. Boy, one partner. The one I've never worked with.
Oh, okay.
Boomer Esiason.
Huh.
I would love to work with Boomer Esiason. I hope the guys in New York who've worked with him know how good they have it. Working with a jock who puts in as much as he puts in. I love Boomer on the air, and I've only had him in the studio with me. I've never actually done a show with him, but he was a lot of fun. I'm not giving you the answer you wanted. I could
No, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. But, Boomer and Carton was an all-time show. And Boomer and Gio's great, too. Don't get me wrong. But I remember listening to them, and I have no affiliation,
to the New York City,
to
yeah,
anything in New
right.
York City. But I remember popping them and Francesa on all the time. So I get it.
Did you ever
get the appeal.
meet Francesa?
Yeah.
How is he?
Yeah.
Is he exactly what we think of him?
What do you think of him? That
Just-
he's a
he's the-
chotch, he's a tool.
No, I think he's
I
just
love
the.
him.
Do you?
He's the goofy New York City funny accent.
When we got a tour of the WFAN studios in 2011 or 2012, we did our show from their studios we were out there with the Blackhawks. And the show I did with Spiegel followed Boomer and Gio. And Boomer gave us a tour during a commercial break, and all of the different shows had their own studios. And he said, "This is not because management wants us all to feel special. This is so we don't have to look at each other. They actually constructed studios so guys would not have to pass each other in the hallway. That's how much they disliked being around people. That's how bad the environment was at WFA and in New York. I'm not kidding. And from what I understand, Francesa's a big part of that reason.
I mean, and that's not a secret. Like, they never got Francesa's show and never got along with Boomer and Carton. Like, that's.
Well, Francesa can't take a joke. I mean, those impersonations are hysterical.
They're hilarious.
Oh my
They're
God,
hilarious.
He's the best. I mean, he's done stuff with us, and I think his son is an intern for Barstool actually too. But yeah, it's like that's part of the appeal, like to him just being him. So it's like you want him to be that way, though, right? Because if he took the joke, then maybe it's not as good.
Yeah,
So I get your point though. Yeah, man. Anything else we really didn't get to as far as
you said you're starting your outdoors show?
Yeah.
The only thing about doing an outdoor show is I don't want it to feel like work. I don't want it to feel like, oh crap, we haven't gotten a fish in, on camera, because it's hard to get them on camera when you fish muskies. That's the species I target. And if it starts to feel like work, it's no longer going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm too worried about the batteries on the GoPro, whether everything's... And my son, my IT coach, who's 34, can handle most of that stuff. He's my first mate. But
so how about this? We'll meet in the middle. We have an outdoors brand here. Ran by Sydney Wells. I don't know if you follow any outdoors content, but her dad's like mega famous in the hunting and fishing and outdoors world. But we do a bunch of stuff up here. I will personally extend an invite to go fishing with me and Sydney next time we're on the lake.
Love it. I love it. Yeah.
So
let's
that
do
way
it.
you don't have to worry about all the cameras. They'll already be there.
Already there.
Already there.
Do all the fishing.
Yeah, because I want to bring you on, and you can't do the. There's no oral history of Dan McNeil that can be done in an hour.
No,
right?
there's not.
But we try to get to as much as we could. And what are we going to talk about the draft? We're going to talk about Ash and Genty right now. I don't want to do that, Mac. But if there is anything else you did have in mind, I'm game to talk about it.
Who are the Blackhawks going to hire to be their next head coach? I'm just kidding. I know that you don't have a thought on that.
I couldn't even.
Dave is like, they're looking for a head coach?
I couldn't name one single, if you paid me $1 million, prospective NHL head coach.
Do you know who their head coach is now?
If you gave me like a list of 100 names, I'd be able to pick it out. But off the top of my head,
well, they got rid of Seth Jones, right?
Yes,
they traded him.
They
yes.
got rid of They traded him?
They traded him for. They got a good.
They traded him.
first
Okay.
round and.
Yeah, they got Spencer Knight.
I saw numbers on Connor Bedard last night. They showed his numbers through 2 seasons, 150 games, and Eddie Olczyk's numbers, and they are startlingly similar. Because Eddie Olczyk, while a great player for his era,
player.
is not, Connor Bedard is supposed to be here. Connor Bedard is supposed to be Alex Ovechkin type good. Connor McDavid type good. And when he's sitting there, they're neck and neck, only 1 goal differential, 2 or 3 assist differential. That ain't good for Connor Bedard. He's got to do better than that.
Yeah, that's the theme on this show, especially when Chief's here. We're not hockey guys like Chief is, but that's the theme when we speak of Bedard, that he's been good, but you need him to be like perennial MVP, Conn Smythe type good. That's Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, a lot of this is how he was built. He was billed as being this.
That guy, yeah.
It's Crosby, McDavid, Bedard. That's how he was built.
Yeah.
Maybe he was never on that pedestal, but he was.
He was just
scratching at that
He was
pedestal.
right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
he was
like,
right
We have
there.
Caleb Williams and we have Ben Johnson, and every year we get a new Messiah in every sport, it seems like, and they don't.
On the South Side, they typically trade him away.
You're a Sox fan, right?
Yeah.
Who's your the guy who you covered throughout your career that like pissed you off the most? Who was the most maddening player? Like who's like this guy?
Probably Konerko.
Okay.
I just wish he could have relaxed more and been more of himself earlier in his career. Finally, I finally found what turns his key, and that is, quote, the movie Slapshot. Anything from Slapshot. The dirtier the scene, the better. And once I finally figured that out with him, I owned him. But he's a very difficult guy to get to relax. And early in his career, he was a perfectionist. Baseball is a bad sport to be a perfectionist.
You can't be. You cannot.
Fail way more than you succeed, and he had a tough time with that. Frank was a little bit maddening, Thomas, and I loved being around Frank. Yeah, I had some fun with Frank Thomas, and people say, aren't you the same guy who said Frank is moody? And I said, yeah, Frank is moody. He reminds me a lot of me. He can be a real asshole, and I'm the same way. But yeah, the White Sox have not had a ton of interesting players off the field these last few years. I know some people would say Tim Anderson was an interesting guy. I don't know. He lost me with the Jackie Robinson comments he made a few years ago. I needed more of an explanation on that. But, yeah, the White Sox, the food is great at the South Side ballpark. And
great bratwurst.
Those onions.
When you walk into that stadium and you get smacked in the face with that smell of the grilled onions, it's one of my favorite things on earth. I'd like to smell those grilled onions one day again.
They're a matinee today too, aren't they? Aren't they? Isn't a getaway day against Oakland today?
Typically Wednesdays.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I could stop by the cell on the way home. No lines, no waiting.
No, they're at night. They're 6:40.
Okay, forget that idea.
Hey, everyone, let's pause for a second to talk about DraftKings. It's the best time to be a basketball fan. All the thrills and playoff drama. Done sitting on the sideline and ready to win some real cash. Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 posterizes the competition, including prize picks. When you hit all your picks, you'll score higher minimum payouts on Pick 6 than flex plays on prize picks. And best of all, you'll win even more cash if you outscore the competition. Track your picks for a shot at huge cash prizes. That's all there is to it. Pick 6 is available in most states. Listen up. It's available in Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6 and cash in your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Basketball playoffs are here. Cash in with Pick 6 from DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code StretchPod. That's code StretchPod for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Who was your favorite guy to chop it up with?
Current?
No, just from back in the day.
Burley.
Yeah.
Burley's a regular dude. I love Burley. His dad was an incredible oaf, just big old hillbilly, Mr. Haney from Green Acres, the TV show we used to call him.
My dad watched Green Acres. Yeah,
he was just a big goof. He was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed him. Tony Phillips was an interesting guy too in the 90s. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember Tony, but Ray Durham was one of my favorite guys from your youth.
He was the first baseball player I ever met, and I thought it was like meeting a god. They have those White Sox kids camps all over the suburbs.
Yeah,
that are week long. They're basically just daycare for younger kids. But they would have a player go out to each camp, and I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. And Ray Durham signed a wooden bat I have. He's like, "You gonna use this?" I'm like, "No, sir. I still have that bat."
You should still have
that bat. Yep.
And shout out to you. You gave us a Mark Burley Wheaties box.
I think every studio should have a Mark Burley Wheaties box.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
shout out to Burley. I mean, he's getting a statue in a couple months.
A well-deserved statue.
Get him on the show.
We've tried. He doesn't want it.
We've tried him, Frank, Canerco. We've tried them all. None of them will do it.
Really?
Yeah, and those are like tier one guests that we.
I can see why Canerco wouldn't, because I haven't heard Paul Canerco say a word since 2008 when he retired or whatever it was, or 2000 whenever. But Frank, he does media. Like, come on, Frank.
Yeah, it surprises me he won't do it.
No,
he will do it, but at a cost, from what I understand.
Yeah. Get him the VIP suite at a strip club. That's how I turned his key a few years ago.
Yeah.
Him and Mo
what kind of wine doesn't he like?
Mo Vaughn and Frank Thomas in a VIP strip club?
Yeah.
That's legendary.
You do what you have to do to set guys up, It's just like Mo was going through a divorce, and I knew that Frank was a fan of strip clubs. So I went by the Red Sox clubhouse, and I said, hey, after the game tonight, if you guys want to stop by the place over on Kingsbury, I can't remember what the name of it was years ago.
VIPs.
That's something. Yeah, that was
it. Was VIPs. Now it's something different.
It's still over there though.
Still over there. Yeah.
A gentleman's club. I love that gentleman's club. Yeah. But so Mo said, yeah, looking forward to the VIP treatment. So
that's awesome.
Whatever you got to do, anything anything to curry favor with an athlete, right?
Yeah.
You just call the VIP people and say, hey, Mo Vaughn and Frank Thomas are coming by. Take care of them tonight.
That's nice. Which day, more than any day that you can remember off the top of your head, lit up the phone lines like no other? Was it the 98 home run race? Was it the 05 White Sox, the Super Bowl run, a crazy day and whatever?
I think the day, the night it started circulating that Jordan was retiring from the NBA in October of 93. It was during the White Sox loss to the Blue Jays in the American League Championship Series. It was the night they got punched out. So you're a Sox fan, you're already pissed off because your team is losing, and they should have beaten the Blue Jays in that series. They were a better team, I thought, than the Toronto Blue Jays were that year. So you're pissed that they're not only not going to the World Series, you're pissed that you're not even going to get analysis of it the next day because Jordan is retiring and nobody's going to be talking about the White Sox losing to Dave Steve and the Blue Jays. That was life as a White Sox fan. And I think the Cubs fired Jim Lefevre, their manager, the next day as well. So you had three stories, none bigger than Jordan retiring and the speculation as to why. Is he suspended for wagering? Does this have something to do with his father being murdered? All kinds of crazy speculation. The Sox getting knocked out and Cubs firing manager Jim Lefevre. Those all three were going on in one day. All three happened within a few hours of each other.
That'd be like they have the ESPN 30 for 30s. That'd be like a great one for a Chicago micro version of a ESPN 30 for 30. That 24-hour stretch.
Yeah.
Jordan retires, Cubs fired.
Yeah.
White Sox lost the LCS. That'd be great.
They got Farrah Fawcetted. It's just what happened. Remember Michael Jackson died and Farrah Fawcett the same day, and it was nobody remembered, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did, though.
Oh, yeah. I got good Farrah Fawcett stories for you.
Oh, man.
Who's the most famous person, non-athlete in Chicago, obviously?
That I've ever slept with? Not Farrah Fawcett.
Not Farrah Fawcett.
Dawn Wells. No, not Dawn Wells. Miss Nevada, 1959. I probably could have betted her. She was on my knee at the Taste of Chicago, and I didn't know this at the time. She was a radio groupie. She played Mary Ann on the television show Gilligan's Island. And she was one of my first, teenage, and I met her at the age of 36. She's sitting on my lap, and I find out she's a radio groupie, but I didn't find that out until after the fact. And she also was a pothead. It's like I checked both boxes for her. We could have gone to my SUV. I could have twisted one up, and we could have gotten the back seat for SUV gymnastics.
You said you had no regrets over your career.
That's it. Dawn Wells.
There you go.
I do Dawn Wells. Okay, see, and I was married, but my wife would have understood, right? I mean, I think I would understand if the wife has an opportunity, like if
I'll pass.
If the professor, Russell Johnson, for example, would have been desirous of her, I would have said, go ahead, sleep with Gilligan, sleep with Bob Denver. I don't care.
That's unreal. That Taste of Chicago, too. It's a throwback. Would you guys do remotes there every year?
Yeah, it was just it was nuts. It just terrible crowd control too.
Yeah.
But they don't do the Taste anymore, do they?
They shrunk it and then they changed it mostly food trucks, and I think they might have just killed it completely.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever been one time.
No, every year in the summer we'd take the train down. It was the best. When we were in,
I used to enjoy it too. Broadcasting from it, not necessarily so much fun.
Right in the smack summer heat.
Yeah, it was always a bunch of people staring at you, have no idea who you are, why you're there. But Don Wells was on my lap that one day.
At one time, yeah. That made it all worth it, I'm sure.
Did.
Yeah.
What's the? Do you have like a weirdest remote that you've ever done?
The weirdest remote.
Yeah, they ever stuff you in like a Radio Shack at one point?
We did one at a Jewel one time.
Yeah, it was
Actually, we had a ton of people come out.
it was
for
actually
it.
kind of awesome.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
It was so Division on the Rocks. There's a Jewel over there on Division. They have like a little bar area, so it's not as weird as you would think, but it's still kind of odd to do a show
In a grocery store.
Grocery store, you know?
I would think, yeah.
But it was cool.
Yeah. We did a disc jockey sound booth once, the Mac Yurko and Harry show. We were not a fitness show. And they had us packed into a disc jockey booth in Tampa. I couldn't believe it. It's like you got to be kidding. This is small for one person, and how are we going to get in there? I don't know how this is going to work. But we pulled it off somehow. Jesus.
We did one at a bar for it was like a couple of days before Christmas, maybe like December 20th.
You know, those remotes, sometimes they put you in like the worst situations.
And it was in Wrigley, and they have you know how they have the 12 bars of Christmas and all that, and they decorate the bars like with all the Christmas lights and the elf decorations and all that for Christmas theme. And we were on the live speaker at the bar, and there's hundreds of people there just to be at the bar. We're like talking on the microphone, looking at people in the crowd, and you could just see how angry these people were that four idiots are up there talking about Chicago sports when they're trying to listen to Mariah Carey.
It was unbelievable. When they turned down, whatever Christmas song
Mariah,
it was,
yeah.
and they put us on, it was like, turn the fucking Christmas music. I go,
Get these assholes out of here.
And we were only like, I don't know, like 12 months into the job. So,
yeah, we were fresh.
Yeah,
fresh.
exactly.
Yeah.
Freshly fragile.
Yeah. I was like, this is
Well,
bad.
that's what toughens you up, man.
It is.
For sure. Yeah. You got to go through those to kind
Kind of, yeah, you do.
do the
kinda
next
do,
one.
Yeah.
of. What else, Mac? And then right now you dropped a book.
That is true. I got through the first paragraph or first chapter.
Got through the first paragraph.
I got through the foreword.
Wow.
out
To
there.
prove he could read.
It is not just a Bears history book. It takes you through most of the last season. Not quite through the Eberflus fire, and you said that
Right.
may come down the
Right, yeah, down the road. Yeah, I wanted to do my 40 years of covering the Bears starting in 85 when I was an intern at their flagship station on WGN. Ew. Static dribble between the rigs. My Swirsky's not in mid-season form. I haven't heard him. He's still doing the Bulls, right?
I'd imagine he is. Yeah, he's got.
Yeah, he is.
Ew.
He loves
Tyson Chandler. 40 years of covering the Bears and, a lot of inside stuff. A lot of stuff on Steve McMichael in there, which is sort of current with Mongo
Yeah.
knocking, unfortunately. Spent time with him this past summer and again over Christmas. And a lot of reflection on the 85 team and a lot of good stuff with Brian Urlacher, too. Probably the last Bears superstar with whom I had a meaningful association. And a guy who has been written off by a lot of Bears fans because he's a Republican and he voted for Donald Trump. And some Bears fans don't want anything to do with him for that reason. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, he's Brian Urlacher still.
Yeah,
so.
He's Brian effing Urlacher.
Yeah.
It goes Payton, Sayers, Ditka for both player and coach, and then probably Urlacher, right? Well, and then Singletary.
I don't know. I think you could probably just load it up all 85. That's probably how it would be, right? Would you say?
And Urlacher.
And
Yeah,
it'd be
Urlacher.
Think he
85
creeps in
and
there?
Urlacher.
Yeah, I do.
That's no disrespect to Urlacher. I'm just saying, like,
At 85 rules. For
yeah,
sure,
exactly.
For sure.
You like if he gets 06, then
Different story.
Then I think it's an easy.
Honestly, Rex would probably be a mega star in the city's.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
We don't know how good the corners were on the 85 Bears because they were never challenged. It's, the pass rush was so dominant, you don't even know if their corners were good. But, Brian Urlacher could have played on those teams. Brian could have played in any era. That's one tough SOB, man. Sure. I love him.
I disagree. He didn't finish his tattoo on his arm. He left the tricep. We've gotten to know him a little bit, too. We always bust his balls about that. Call him a Sally.
Yeah.
All right then, Mac. Any good stories or anything we didn't get to? Anything you wanted to get out there before we wrap up?
You got a little Justin Timberlake in you. I
love hearing that. I love hearing that.
I just noticed that.
Yes.
Clip it.
No, delete.
Clip it.
That's
Justin Timberlake.
I think so. I didn't notice it before, but yeah.
I've never agreed with anything anybody has ever said.
Can you
as
sing
much
Dick
as-
in a Box?
I can't. I can't sing anything.
Mac, how much fucking ganja did you smoke up here? Like, this is just, that's White Sox Dave and Justin Timberlake.
I agree.
This guy was burnt. He must have, he's 3 J-bones deep.
Well, I asked, any pre-rolls required for this visit? And you said no.
We have a whole bunch in one of the other offices.
I know. I've seen the sponsors. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, right. What a crazy day and age. Like,
We just a week or so ago we went out to
the distribution plant. It was fucking insane.
the grow plant.
Oh,
It was
I bet.
Yeah.
400,000 square feet of weed everywhere. As far as the eye can see, it was seas of weed.
Here's something that's a differentiation with sports media today and where we were in 92 when the Score was a startup. Today, you can advertise weed because in Illinois, weed is recreationally legal, and guys can be seen with smoke billowing in the studio around them. The advertising is all fueled by what? Sports gaming and booze. We used to get yelled at. North and I used to get pounded by management for talking too much gambling and too much booze. How many times do we have to tell you guys to quit talking about the point spread on Tuesday? That's when people are starting to think about the point spread. The sharps, what does that mean, sharps? Well, the people who are good at gambling on sports, having to explain that to the bosses.
Yeah, now oddly enough, it's gone too far the other way, where so much content is gambling focused, and people are like,
I'm sick of it.
let's talk about the game. Who's going to win and lose?
It's
Don't
true,
tell
yeah.
me about the advantage that this team has, and
Yeah, it's a bit much.
winning the halftime.
It is a
and
lot.
winning-
It's
and-
too
yeah,
much.
Yeah, exactly. So there's
There needs to be a balance.
There's a fine
Yeah.
line. I think so, at least. All right then, Mac. You're the
Thank
man.
you for having me, man.
Thank you
Work-
for coming in.
Where can people buy the book?
At Eckhart's Press, ECKHARTZ Press, or just follow me on Twitter at Danny Mac Show. There is a pinned tweet to find out how you can get this book. I bear witness. It's $25.
Awesome. And then anything else you want to let the people know? Any other projects or
I will announce them as soon as I get them, as soon as I get a job, as soon as Barstool Boomer can start doing movie critiques. Let me know.
Yeah. Well, hey, you never know.
Because I'm going to recast The Menu. Have you seen The Menu? Really dark psych thriller with Ralph Fiennes.
I know what
it
it is. I know it. I've not seen it though.
Yeah, where the people who dine at this exclusive restaurant called Hawthorne are actually going to be a part of The Menu, a humanary stew. It's kind of savage and dark. And all the people who are dining in The Menu, too, will be exiled sports radio people. Canceled sports media people.
Who else on that?
Mike Milbury has a seat at the table. Jeremy Roenick, Dan Bernstein, McNeil, Mariotti. I don't know if I'd say North is canceled.
I don't.
I mean,
No,
he has
but
a
he's-
show with Carm, but he doesn't have what he'd like to have.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so though. Okay, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
I like
The Menu too.
Well, you never know. But one of these stations might call you here, Mac. You're not. I don't think the.
I think the score's fourth go around on the horizon.
Phew. I just want to show up and talk football once in a while with the guys. I don't want a job there.
Yeah.
I don't want a job there. They'd be stupid to hire me. They would be.
Why so?
If it's not football, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, you're. Not.
Yeah.
Unless it's just an hour a day. I mean, I could dick around for an hour a day, but if they want someone to be there for 4 hours and talk about depth at in the Cubs bullpen, are you kidding? I'm just like, as soon as I heard those guys in spring training, thank God I'm not out there. Are you serious? I'm worried
Cubs
about
bullpen.
depth at the back end of the bull. Oh my God, it's
Presley
February.
can't strike anybody out.
It's February. Let's worry about the back end of the bullpen in June.
I know, but they have to do it. You know, they're trying to fill. You know,
Never fill program.
I like it.
That was my rule. Never fill
I
program.
like it. That's a good way to look at it. No. Thanks for coming in. It's been great kind of getting to know you these last couple
Yeah, it's
months.
been awesome.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks for all you've done for Chicago.
Well, thank
media.
you. Thank you. You guys got it going on here, man. Keep rolling.
Trying to carry the torch for you. That you
rolling.
and Bernstein, as much as we've given him shit and he's given us shit, he is a forefather of Chicago.
For sure.
Terry, obviously. All you guys, Haw, Yurko, Harry Tynowitz, like everybody.
He looks nothing like
Sylvie
Justin
Waller,
Timberlake,
Parm.
by the way.
You needed to not say that.
He looks
you needed to
nothing
not
like-
say that.
Thank you. Now the show can end. Mac.
Looks like Michael Pena.
I like that.
All right, Mac. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That's it for today. And that's it for this week. We will be back on Monday. We will see you then.